Well, what's going on, Patreon members? You know, I used to have an intro, but StreamYard's changed so many things. I have lost the video for some reason. Oh no, here you go. Let's just do that again. JR, what's going on? StreamYard has moved everything around on me in a month. What in the world?
They're always, you know, these platforms are always changing things and screwing people up. So, at least it's not like YouTube or whatever, which like restricts half the English language that you can use. You can't say like kill or suicide or. All right. Hey, everybody, want to see my Ditko?
No, there's your. Please put your Ditko away. Nice looking Green Goblin shirt. There's a new Sal Buscema one out. Have you seen this one with just a Green Goblin face and it's all green? It's looking good. It's at Target. I'll have to send you the link.
Actually, I have that one. I believe.
Oh, you have that one? Okay.
Yeah, it's not new. It's the. I think it's the Harry Osborn Green Goblin. You know, like when he pops out of the Jack in the Box or whatever. I think.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah,
but it is. I mean, because nobody who sees it knows that it's Harry Osborn and not Norman. So,
and only true Spider-Man fans know it's a John.
It is still. It's still. I got it at Forbidden Planet in New York. So,
nice. Gary and the Frozen's loving your outfit. Love that shirt.
All right. Yeah. Well, see, I can finally start to wear some of these without again. But
are you losing some weight? What's the trick?
My old people stuff. My blood sugar was too high, so they had to. They said you need to do this and get that weight down and get that blood sugar down. So
comics, long time no see. Yeah, JR, we haven't done this since what, June?
We haven't.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, life's been getting in the way. You know, it just the way it goes, folks. But boy, I'm really glad to be back, and I'm glad to be back with this one. I don't know who I forget who recommended.
Are you talking about me? Are you talking about me? This one?
Did you recommend it? I was about to say.
No, you said I'm ready. I'm glad to be back with this one. I thought you were talking about
the story.
Me. No, the story. Okay.
No, the story. Don't flatter yourself.
Oh.
No, the story. Whoever recommended it, I forget, but it's a good one. It's the 20th anniversary of it. So,
hey, you didn't put anything under your name. I'm going to put something under your name. Spider Historian.
Oh, right there we go. I was going to put Paragon of Truth, but it's not fun to do that when George isn't around.
And plus, you can't spell Paragon.
2 A's, 1 R, 1 G-O-N. There we go.
No, you forgot an F-U. Anyway. Gary and the Frozen's been waiting on Spider History, one of my personal favorite Spider-Man stories, Spider-Man Shush.
Spider-Man Shush, yep.
So, this is the 20th anniversary of the Marvel Knights Spider-Man story. Mark Miller and Terry Dodson and Rachel Dodson. Right, JR? Talk about that.
Absolutely.
20 years ago, 2004, just 2 years before we started this podcast.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I mean, I'm thinking, 20 years ago, I'm thinking, crap, my kids were 10 and 3, now they're both grown and out of the house. And fortunately, I look as young as ever. But
look at that art. What do you think of that goblin suit too? That's a little different.
If I had any artistic talent, I would probably tinker it with it a little bit. But I do like a more armored, metallic, weaponized look for Norman. Instead of the green. I mean, I like the green and purple pajamas. I mean, you just can't. It's iconic. You can't beat it.
Now, I don't like this version of Doc Ock, though.
No, I call him Ozzy Ock.
And Sharon, where's my arms?
Yeah, and when you see him show up, I think issue 5 or whatever, it's like definitely. I was like, Ozzy Osbourne should have sued because I used his image without paying him a royalty or something. That's how on the nose it is.
Yes, Jeff. 20 years ago, damn.
Yeah. Milo, how old were you, Jeff?
We're 5 minutes in with the super chat on Milo. Thank you, Milo.
Right,
we got
Milo.
a soccer game tomorrow, so I can't watch, but we'll catch up on Spotify. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks, Milo.
Thanks for the thoughts. Hope you enjoy it.
All right, JR, take me through the first issue. We're going to review 4 of them. And when we release these in audio form, this will be October, November, and December. So we're wrapping up Spider History for the rest of the month.
And it's and it's good that we're doing a Goblin story for Halloween. Yeah. To do a little bit of background here.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of you, I'm sure, were around when this first came out, but maybe some of you weren't quite to the point where you're out there running to your local comic store every Wednesday. Mm-hmm. But this came with a lot of fanfare. Mark Millar. I don't know if he had written Ultimates by this time, or is Ultimates still in the future?
Help me out on chat. I know he hasn't done Civil War yet.
Yeah, no, Civil War is not till like 2006 and 7. Yeah. But anyway, but I was thinking he had done Ultimates by this time, because didn't Ultimate Spider-Man come out in 2000?
It did. Yeah.
But anyway,
that probably makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a big name, a well-known name. And Rachel and Terry Dodson on art.
There you go. 2002 is when Ultimates came out.
There we go. Yeah. So and that's one of the few like non-Spidey trade paperbacks I bought. Mm-hmm. Ultimates 1 and 2. That was really good. I mean, that first 12 months of Ultimates was really good.
Yeah. They stole a lot from for the Avengers movie too.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where they got Samuel L. Fury.
Yeah.
And at least they didn't do the at least one thing they didn't take from it was the incestuous relationship between Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch. That one,
be awkward.
Yeah, that one. And there's kind of almost a little slight reference to it in this story, but not too much, but just you can kind of like, oh yeah. But it came out with a big, big promotion. And like I said, I like Dodson art, and then like 2 of the issues, Frank Cho substitutes, and I like Frank.
I do too.
I love the way they do women. I mean, although I always said the Dodsons have only one female face. I mean, but it's a nice.
It's a nice face.
It's a nice looking face.
And to go back even farther, Marvel Knights started around 1999 with Joe Quesada and the Kevin Smith with Daredevil. That whole line with you had Daredevil and you had Marvel Knights. And once they did,
was it Midnight Suns part of it or something? Or I don't know.
No, Midnight Suns was in the 90s. This was like late 99. So you had, what do we have? We had Daredevil. We had The Inhumans by Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee. You had Black Panther, of course, with Jim Owsley, a.k.a. Christopher Priest, doing an outstanding job on that book. So, So they decided, I think at one point they even did a Marvel Knights X-Men book, but they just launched a whole bunch of, weren't these supposed to be grittier? If I remember correctly, they're supposed to be grittier stories, more down to earth.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think, I think there was an even more adult one that Bendis did with like Luke Cage and Jessica Jones.
Alias. That was Marvel Max though. That was
Max. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember, because this Marvel Knight Spider-Man is actually is a little grittier than most Spider-Man books, which doesn't bother me in the slightest. I mean, it's it's not a nice world they live in, and it's kind of closer to the harder edge of a PG-13 probably, this book, but it's probably about as far as Marvel would let them go with Spider-Man. In fact, mentioning Marvel Max, because I remember Joe Quesada specifically said Spider-Man is not going to be a Marvel Max title.
Before we get into it, Gary is talking, this is second reference about Batman Hush.
Yes.
Why is this a copy of Batman Hush?
Because Batman Hush was and folks correct me when I go astray here, Spencer has this. I mean, we got it for Spencer for his Christmas or his birthday one, so I did read it. But Batman Hush was basically a 12-issue maxi series. Some mysterious figure, aka Hush, was making life utterly miserable for Batman. He knew who Batman was, and peppered along the way there were appearances by all his major villains. The Joker appeared, and the mastermind at the very end was kind of a surprise. It was a good pick, but it was a surprise. I don't know. It's be a 25-year-old spoiler. It's the Riddler. But the Riddler had figured out Batman's identity. But there were some good lines in it. I mean, Batman was going to kill the Joker because the Joker, I think, desecrated Jason Todd's grave or something. But Batman was going to kill the Joker, and Commissioner Gordon stopped him. And it was just it was a really good scene. And then the end where the Riddler, says, well, if you're not, if you don't cooperate, I'll, I can tell everybody you're Bruce Wayne. And then Batman said, okay, what's the worst kind of riddle? It's a riddle that everybody knows the answer to, and that just stopped the Riddler in his tracks. It's like, but anyway, it's a good story. And anyway, so basically,
so that was I just looked it up. That was a Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee story.
Jeff Loeb, okay.
Jeff Loeb, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic. In fact, I think Hush is coming back. But anyway, it's a classic Batman story. Okay. And when this story was announced, the plot was described, 12-issue maxi series. I don't know if they mentioned Aunt May being kidnapped, but they did mention that, there was going to be a mastermind there, and that all of Spidey's major villains were going to appear in this. And, and like I think Gary in the Frozen said, 99% of the internet said, hey, that's the plot of Batman Hush. and immediately the memes came out calling this Spider-Man Shush.
Okay.
Got it. And I kind of picked up on that when I was writing my articles or whatever. I kept calling this Spider-Man Shush. But unfortunately I can't claim credit for that. The internet made it. They came up with that one right away, Spider-Man Shush. But 20 years later now, I mean, who cares? It's still an enjoyable copy, and nobody really sits and think, or enjoyable story, and nobody sits and think, oh, this is a ripoff of because Spider-Man has one of the greatest rogues galleries, probably other than Batman in comic books, and even Batman's rogues gallery were probably derivative of Dick Tracy. Because Dick Tracy had like a rogues gallery of just these garish villains. So, and
I'll take you back a ways, JR. Look at this. It's still on the crawl space. The Spider-Man Shush article. Oh, it looks like I got a dead image there. But just do a simple search for Spider-Man Shush on the crawl space, and you can. There's your boy.
Yeah,
right
I was thinking maybe I should find that and like steal crib from it. But I thought, nah, I'll just start fresh again. But
anyway, it's still up there. Spidey Kicks Butt. What you wrote that obviously 20 years ago.
Yeah. I
saved it.
Yeah, it was because I think I wrote at that time I was doing, when I first started the year in review, it was like one article 1 year, but then like it started. Then 2004, there was just so much to talk about. Sins Past got 2 articles. This one got its own. 2004 was 2004 was a really good year for Spider-Man. It was, regardless of what you think about Sins Past, for example. Yeah. But Sins Past, at least the first 4 parts, fell apart after the last couple. And this, very few times do I have to be at the comic store on Wednesday. Right after work. Very few times.
Wow.
I mean, I can count almost on 2 hands with a couple of fingers left over. But this period of time in 2004, it was shut off the computer and drive to the comic store.
You were a Marvel zombie. All right, let's get to it. JR, we got Down Among the Dead Men.
Yes, indeed.
Part 1 of 4.
Well, the story starts out, on a Sunday morning in New York City. And if you've ever woken up, if you've ever walked the streets in New York City in the very early morning, all the garbage is out on the street. All the restaurants and other stores put their garbage out, and it stinks. So you're walking down the sidewalk, and you just pass like bags and bags and bags all down the street of garbage. But anyway, so these guys are taking out the garbage on Sunday morning out of their restaurant, but. However, there's a little surprise waiting for them in the garbage. At first, they think it's another homeless guy sleeping something off, but no, it turns out to be our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, who is being pursued by his arch nemesis, Norman Osborn, our former hero, Norman Osborn, because our current hero now is Paul. And and of course. And Norman just, starts lighting things up right away to get the show started. And then Spider-Man this took place right after something this comic has been long canceled, but it was called The Pulse. Yeah. Now I think when Miller got this assignment, I think his story was self-contained or meant to be self-contained and not necessarily exactly tie into the existing continuity. And I think retroactively they said, okay, yeah, this happens right after The Pulse #5. And there's even a reference to this, like in part 11 or something of this. I think they went back and made a reference to it. But in the Pulse, the first 5 parts, it was Brian Bendis. He wrote a story. Norman Osborn was finally outed as the Green Goblin, it's not a great story. I tried to talk it up a little bit, in an article, but it's just not a good story. Norman basically becomes an ordinary serial killer, killing his employees, and I didn't care for that. But anyway, he winds up hurting Jessica Jones somewhere down the line, and Luke Cage takes him out. And Spider-Man, when Luke Cage takes him out, Spider-Man just stands there like a little girl with his face going, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did something horrible like that." And I just hated that. So they then they kind of retroed it. What happened then is Norman escapes, and this is what he does. This is what happens. He goes to a church. He takes 18 people hostage, and he demands that Spider-Man come so he can kill him on live television.
He's evidently been working out in prison. Look at that backside, JR.
No more. Yeah. We've already done a show based on Goblin ass. So yeah, we're not doing.
Goblin got back. Look at them pumpkin bombs. Woo!
Yeah, we're not doing any more Goblin ass. But this is this fight. I mean, nowadays, particularly with Zeb Wells' torture porn. All the fights are brutal. Spidey gets his costume tore up all the time, blah blah. But in 2004, this was a knockdown drag out. I mean, there were injuries, there were consequences. The costume got ripped, torn, burned, and we'll see what state Peter is in afterwards.
Look at that.
Yeah. Who's your daddy? He says that twice. Who's your daddy?
Who's your daddy now, Mr. Osborn? Woo!
Yeah. So, and Spider-Man alludes to some kind of truce that they had, but they never had. Venom and he had a truce. Osborn, in fact, the before the Pulse, the time I believe the last time Norman appeared was Death in the Family by Paul Jenkins, I think. And there was no truce that they would leave each other alone and not reveal each other's identities. Norman was beaten, and he was on the verge of wanting to blow his brains out. So at that point in time, he wasn't a threat anymore. So there was no. Can you
imagine these two working together 20 years later?
A missed opportunity. If you're going to tell that story, it could have been told a lot better than it was. But anyway, so Spider-Man. So anyway, he alludes to this truce, and he doesn't know why Norman's gone off the deep end. But Norman, but that's just the story. Norman's gone off the deep end now, and so Spider-Man's going to finally take him down for good. And so he picks up a mailbox and just crushes him with it. Yeah. Much to the chagrin of the passersby, who thinks he's being a little bit too mean to the guy in the green costume. And some buffoon wants to talk, wants to play with Norman's pumpkin bomb.
Look at this guy.
I mean,
look at this guy.
And then he gets mad at Spider-Man.
He's even married. Some woman or man married this guy.
Yeah, well, hopefully after she saw this, she divorced him. I mean, this is just stupid.
I think she married him. I mean,
and then, but see, so he then says, "Oh, Spider-Man, you got to help me. I feel like there's a whole lot of little razor bats in me, razors in me." And Spider-Man's essentially saying the PG version of, "You stupid MF, I told you not to touch him." And
have you not seen my fight?
But everybody's just, I don't know what this is. It's this is right before Civil War, but I don't think this has anything to do with it, right? But the people are just really antagonistic towards Spidey at this time in this story, and that asshole who got his legs blown off, he's mad at Spider-Man. It's like, what are you mad at, you jerk? But then these are New Yorkers, I guess. So anyway, Spider-Man decides he's going to call it a day, and he is leaving Norman for the paddy wagon to come and pick him up. All right. So now we go to Forest Hills. And what is happening here is that Mary Jane and Peter, or mostly Mary Jane, because she's the one that had the money, have bought Aunt May an apartment in Manhattan. Now, here's the thing. They keep calling it an apartment, and they bought her an apartment. That I don't know if this is a mistake, because
you don't buy an apartment, you rent an apartment.
Yeah, Millar is Scottish, and every now and then, and I'm not dinging that. It's just like, for example, like in Civil War, he has the president like revoke the Superhero Registration Act, and the president can't do that. The law was passed by Congress. The president signed it, but the law was passed by Congress. Congress has, blah blah blah.
That sounds like an editor problem. Telling his writer,
right,
hey, you know what?
But
we don't do that in the U.S.
You buy a condo or you buy into a co-op, but anyway, so it's an apartment. They call it an apartment. But anyway, so they basically bought Aunt May a condo because they wanted to live closer. And the Forest Hills house has always been either owned or rented by Aunt May, one or the other. It's not consistent. It's just sometimes she owns it, sometimes she rents it.
Maybe she listened to Tom Selleck and got a reverse mortgage,
yeah, well, a lot of he's specifically luring seniors in with that scam. So anyway, so they're packing her up and moving her to this new condo,
deluxe apartment in the sky.
Yeah. And so anyway, is
she kissing that Tylenol?
Well, now she's checking it out because she's old and blind, so she has to put it up right up to her. But anyway, as you and they do say she's 72 years old, so which one of the few times I think May was directly given both May and Osborne are given specific ages in this story, which I don't think has ever been done before or since.
How old did they say Osborne is?
55, but that's later.
Okay, got it.
When Peter says, "You're a 55-year-old man," what are you doing playing this Green Goblin crap? But so anyway, as you see Peter, this is what even super powered. This is what happens when you face your greatest nemesis, who you're pretty well on an even par with. Although I would say I believe Spider-Man is stronger than Norman, and I think when Spider-Man is really enraged, Norman doesn't stand a chance. The only reason I think Norman's been able to fight him to a standstill is like at one time where he was trying to brainwash Peter, and Peter had gone days without sleep or food or whatever, and still fought Norman to a standstill. But anyway, so Peter is just really beat to hell. And, Aunt May says, "You want a couple of Tylenol?" And Mary Jane, no, he says, "No, I need half the bottle." But so, he downs his Tylenol, but Aunt May hears that the news is coming on. And so she's got to run and videotape it. Now, I don't know, boys and girls, videotapes. Remember videotapes? I know Brad does.
They were going out around this time. DVDs were coming a lot more popular in 2004.
Yeah, I don't even think you can buy them anymore. It's like they're in Goodwill and stuff like that.
Oh, you can, but the new Alien Romulus movie just made a headline that they're putting it on VHS. I saw. Really?
Can you even buy a VHS player? But anyway, she's been filming. She's been taping Peter's when the story is about Spider-Man taking some villain down. She's been taping the news. The only thing is, Peter discovers that she's got a lot of Iron Man videos in there. And she says, "Well, of course, she's cute. With that little mustache, she looks like Ronald Coleman." And Ronald Coleman was a silent movie. He started his career in silent movies in England, and he came over to the United States, and he was in several Hollywood films. He was famous. He was one of those guys who was big in his time, big in his time, but the new generation doesn't know who he is. But probably most notably, he was in the first Lost Horizon with Jane White. If you remember if any of you folks remember Lost Horizon, you should remember Lost Horizon because Shangri-La is what Kunlun is based on. So, so Iron Fist ripped off Lost Horizon. So anyway, which it's kind of funny that Aunt May thinks, because this was like 4 years before Downey did Iron Man. And nowadays it'll all be Robert Downey Jr. jokes because my wife likes Robert Downey Jr. I try to tell her that she's as old as we are, but that didn't seem to phase her. So anyway, then they start reminiscing about. I really kind of like this. They start reminiscing about things, about Uncle Ben and Peter digs out the engagement ring that Doc Ock gave Aunt May. And I just love this because it was stupid in the 70s, but it's just it's like the Spider-Mobile. It's one of those things that it's part of history. Have fun with it.
Absolutely.
And she says, well, Anna says I'll put it on eBay and sell it for a lot of money, but boy, that just seems like such a betrayal of trust. And Peter goes, yeah, Doc Ock being a sensitive guy. But then May reminisces about Ben. And this is kind of how a little bit more adult this was, because she basically says she taught with, you remember whenever you would pee in the bathroom and leave the door wide open. And, some people during this time got a little bit, they didn't understand that, it's like they were kind of appalled by it. And it's like, don't you get it? She's just saying that even with his bad habits, she'd do anything to have him back. Bad habits and all.
And you know what? The comics are written like this nowadays.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's like, nowadays you get away with everything.
Absolutely.
This time it was a little more risque, but it's like, I don't know what you folks were thinking about. She's just basically saying she'd take him back and all of his faults in a heartbeat. Now here's some good Easter eggs. Yeah, here's some good Easter eggs. They go to Peter's old room, and it's like, you see the microscope that they got him in Amazing Fantasy 15, which has been in and out of Peter's possession over the years.
It was left at the grave of Uncle Ben in 181 of ASM. I remember
it was, and some guy picked it up for his kid, but it mysteriously wound up
back. There's his broken glasses.
Getting it back. Yep, there's the glasses that he broke in Amazing, or I guess Flash shoved him and they fell off and he broke him in Amazing Spider-Man #8.
Those boxing gloves from Crush the Hope. I don't know.
Actually, they're probably boxing gloves from when he fought Flash.
Oh, Flash. That's right.
That's my guess. I really don't know.
Got the coffee bean sign over here.
Bean.
Probably a box of comics.
Yeah. And
we got.
There was something.
What is that? What is that?
I was trying to figure that out. I'm sure the chat probably can figure it out, but
action figure, but I don't know.
Yeah, I did not. It's funny that he's got a pumpkin.
The living brain and the Spider-Mobile up here.
The Spider-Mobile. A couple of canisters of undeveloped film. Back. To kind of harken back to his when he was really a photographer, full time. So good little. And Millar did a lot. He seeded this with a lot of references, and it's kind of there's a lot of fan service, but so
Absolutely.
What? So
we're the ones buying it. By God, give it to us.
This story has a lot of problems, and we'll get into some of them a little bit later. Some things that just, even in the comic book universe, just don't make any sense for Spider-Man to do. But ultimately, it's a big. Almost like an ode to Spider-Man, this whole 12-issue maxi series. Well, so Peter and Aunt May, they're thinking about the past and reconciling it, or not reconciling, but, reminiscing and stuff. But danger is lurking, boys and girls. Somebody is hanging upside down in a tree.
Someone's watching. Is it Kane?
Someone is watching. Is it Kane? He is referenced in this story. He doesn't appear, but he is referenced.
Is it Kane? He's always watching.
He's always watching. And the guy is hanging. It's a guy. I don't think there was any doubt about that. But, so he's hanging upside down. And the speculation started immediately who this was. And, some made no sense. Some made some sense. But every guess had some fault to it that it couldn't be, for one, that the person knew who Spider-Man was. So a lot of people were saying, well, maybe it's the Chameleon because the Chameleon knew at the end.
Oh, Chameleon could be anybody,
but why would the Chameleon be hanging upside down? So
hey, we have a guess. We have a guess in chat. Vinkman says it might be an action figure of Jonah's Spider Slayer, only miscolored. I don't know. It should have didn't Jonah's face appear right here in the circular part?
Well, I'm thinking one of Jonah's old Spider Slayers had all the tentacles. I see what you're saying, because it kind of looks like the one that Marla Madison built for him, where his face was, on a big screen or whatever. It's not too dissimilar to that. And it also kind of looks like one of the old Spencer Smythe ones.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is. I don't think it's a Spider Slayer. But I can't say for sure.
20 years later, we're still wondering what's on his shirt.
Yeah. But anyway, nice little Easter egg, and of course the mystery kicks up. We go to the high school where Peter is a teacher, and regardless of what somebody else thought all those years ago, who thought that it made Peter look old, I liked Peter as a high school teacher. I liked it. I thought it was, particularly with with newspapers, and film cameras going extinct.
20 years ago, they were dying too, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, print was dying 20 years ago.
Yeah, they was.
And I think Peter needed to move on from, they need to get him a new job before his prior one became obsolete.
Hey, look at the periodic table of elements over here. I bet you adamantium's on here somewhere in the Marvel universe.
That's true. And it would be a man-made element too.
Oh, and what's vibranium's probably over here too.
Now wait a minute. Vibranium occurs naturally though, doesn't it? I think in Wakanda.
I thought that was I thought that was. Oh, anyway, I don't know.
I know. I'm sure the chat knows. Where the heck's Hornacek? He has all the answers. Anyway, I like Peter being a high school teacher because it was a different job, and it kept him grounded, and also it kept him around young people.
Yeah.
Because as Spider-Man had aged, which I think was very logical. But young people have a way of getting you into stories. And it was also a way for Peter to fight another enemy. The school bureaucracy, and JMS did a pretty good job with Peter as a teacher, and the struggles he had trying to get textbooks and things like that for his students. But anyway, they start interrogating Peter. They say, oh, we Googled you and you took all those pictures of Spider-Man and you married some hot chick and everything like that. And, and it's like, you guys talk this way to all your teachers. But then, it looks like the principal comes in and says, oh, you got a phone call and it ain't good news. So the phone call, it's a city council because I guess the city, it typically administers cemeteries. Yeah. So Peter's been called because Uncle Ben's gravesite, the stone has been smashed, and his grave desecrated. Gary and the Frozen, I absolutely agree with you. They should never have shouldn't have stopped it. Parker Industries was mishandled. I do like it when they try different things sometimes, because Spider-Man's been around for over 60 years. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you do need to take a little change, but it wasn't Peter Parker running Parker Industries, it was a name. He was kind of running it. He was a name only. He wasn't really being Peter Parker. I don't think, but that's another story. Anyway, so Ben's, of course, the caretaker is saying, it's probably just stupid kids. And then Peter gets a phone call on his cell, and it's the mysterious upside down mystery guy, calling him Spider-Man. Yeah. And another thing too is it was hard to pin down who this was, because everybody was saying, should Peter have recognized this guy's voice? But anyway, he calls him Spider-Man, and says, bad things could happen if people, the wrong people find out who you are. And then he drops one of Aunt May's tropes, wheat cakes.
Ooh, it's Kane. It's totally Kane.
Peter, no. Now, probably Kane, being a clone of Peter Parker, would probably sit down for wheat cakes. Anyway, so Peter knows something is horribly wrong if this person is able to drop that reference on him. So in something that honestly doesn't make a lot of sense, because Peter can quick change pretty quickly. He's been doing this for a long time. It probably takes him it would take him less than a minute to strip and down to his costume. Not naked, but stripped down to his costume. But he decides, he decides to web swing through the city in his civilian identity.
Not smart.
Which, even in 2004, I'm trying to think. Could you could take cell phone pictures in 2004?
Not real good ones.
Not real good ones. Okay,
No.
yeah,
They're more flip phones in 04. But
yeah.
look at what Dodson did. Look at that wedding ring right there.
Oh yeah, the wedding
Look at
ring's
that.
always been pretty prominent. Yeah, it's
that.
and so this is one of those things that's just like, that really doesn't seem that Peter would be that careless, even if he was that distressed, because he can change into Spider-Man pretty quickly. I mean, how many sets of clothes has he lost because he just takes them off and throws them and leaves them somewhere? So anyway, he goes to Aunt May's condo, bursts through the window, and is met with a horrifying sight. The place is completely trashed. Aunt May is gone.
That's a good way to end it. That's a good cliffhanger.
This has a lot of good cliffhangers and a lot of good art and a lot of good, particularly near the end. The last page cliffhangers are really good. It just reminds me of the old days of comics when there usually was a really good cliffhanger.
The whole purpose is you wanted to come back next month.
Come back next time. Yeah. So anyway, an interesting start. We have a mystery. Everybody loves Spider-Man's history is loaded with mystery villains, guess the villain, dating back even to Norman, the goblins, Hobgoblin, guess the villain. And so this was another guess the villain. And
all right, here's issue 2.
Issue 2.
Avengers on the cover.
Yep. And so we go into issue 2, and of course Peter is trying to shooing Mary Jane out of New York City. Telling her to take a cab, get on a plane, and get the heck out of New York City. Mary Jane doesn't want to for obvious reasons. He's in a great deal of distress, and she does not want to leave him. One, she doesn't know what he'll do. But she finally leaves. She said, "Don't you think if they'd wanted me, they would have taken me already?" Which is a pretty good point. If you've already got Aunt May. I mean, that's you don't need to do anything else to get Spider-Man's attention.
Yep. Back in 98, Aunt May was abducted again by Norman Osborn with the end of the Clone Saga. Remember that? Aunt May gets abducted. I tell you, this gal.
But she was supposed to be dead. But Bob Harris said she had to come back. And to be honest, I'm glad she did, because you always think about, well, it's time for Spider-Man to move on. It's time for a change. I mean, it's time to, but then, it's like, sometimes I think we get tunnel vision that the character is going to, live and die in our lifetime. But, it's been 25 years since both Norman and May returned. I mean, the fact that they came back is immaterial now. And we have both of these classic historic characters to still tell stories about. So I've kind of come to the conclusion it's not necessary to kill off a character, just send them on vacation or something. But anyway, but Bob Harris insisted Aunt May. But this was the time JMS had Aunt May find out Peter was Spider-Man.
Yeah. So which you and I agree is a good forward momentum storyline. Logical conclusion.
It's
hell, they even did it in the movie and after 3 movies.
Yeah. Well, and I know that in like Amazing Spider, they definitely hinted at it in this first Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2, definitely hinted that she knew. And in Amazing Spider-Man 2, in the commentary, the director's or the producer's commentary, they said that May does know, but that Peter is going to have to tell her. She's not going to confront him about it. She wants him to come to her. And I said, well, that makes perfect sense,
We got a couple of comments. We got Eric saying he can't believe there's no omnibus of this. I'm shocked there's not an omnibus of this either.
I don't know. I mean, I thought
I imagine there's been trades. I don't know of an omnibus.
I think there was like 3 trades, but I do think there was one big omnibus, because I do remember again, Spencer. I ruined him. I just absolutely ruined that boy. Because he made a comment about wanting the story, but he didn't want to pay 40 something bucks, because, guy works in a used video game store. So, 45 bucks is pretty steep for a book. But he was able to, I guess, find the 3 cheaper or whatever, but it was collected at one time, but you would think it would have stayed in print. But then again, Isaac Perlmutter didn't want anything to stay in print.
Wild Carnival Media. Welcome. Great deep dive on a series that's totally escaped me. Tommy Bagley, no relation to Mark, possible, or maybe relation to Mark Bagley. Glad this is the Marvel Knights Spider-Man you're going over instead of the one that was at 99 villains, but a plot ain't one. What Marvel Knights is he talking about?
I'm trying to remember.
Help me out, Tommy. Which one are you talking about? Was there another Marvel Knights Spider-Man?
Oh, yes, there was.
What was that one?
I didn't even get it. It looked like garbage. It was like a mini series, I think. It wasn't that many years
Go to the
ago.
Google.
Yeah, it wasn't that many years ago, but it looked like garbage. And I don't think I even got it. So, but yes, they have done another one. But yeah, this Marvel Knights, the first 12 issues are great. The next 12 are, the next year is kind of lousy. It's not very good. But then when they get Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, and he does several good stories, but unfortunately it was there in the Civil War period, and the things just kind of went downhill.
Well, I don't think I read this either. I've got it on the Marvel website here. It came out in 2013.
Yeah, that's it. That's definitely it. I did
2. Here's issue 1. Oh, it's 5 issues.
Yeah,
so
I did not get it. I buy almost no miniseries anymore because they are just most of them were never very good anyway. Very few of them were ever good. Most of them are
really forgettable.
Yeah, most of them are garbage. And I think I'm trying to think of how many you can almost count on one hand the ones that are good. Death and Destiny by Lee Weeks, and
you're not getting Spider-Man Reign 2 that's coming out. Making a rain, JR. Come on.
Oh my Lord. Oh God, that's awful. That is just terrible. Oh,
anyway, MJ's getting in the
MJ's getting in the cab and leaving. But anyway, as far as miniseries, no, folks. I read the Shadow of the Green Goblin, but I did not buy a single issue because I think it's crap, unfortunately. But anyway, so Mary Jane leaves town. Peter knows he's not the world's greatest detective. And he needs help. So who is good at skulking and keeping to the shadows and hanging out with the seedy underworld and, learning their secrets, but none other than Felicia Hardy.
Yeah, boy.
And folks,
Terry Dodson, Black Cat, please. Thank you.
Not only do the Dodsons do one of the best Black Cat renditions, but Millar does some of the best Black Cat characterizations. This story is a very good characterization of Felicia, and I think Sacasa also did Felicia right, but a lot of writers just don't quite get her. And of course, Dan Slott made her a female kingpin. But one of the things Nick Spencer did was he shit canned that subplot, which is
bravo. Nick Spencer.
Nick Spencer was on a. Honestly, I wish they'd let him finish 100. I think he was on an apology tour because he was fixing a lot of stuff.
Now, this is hysterical. Tommy Bagley goes, Brad, you reviewed the Marvel Knights miniseries yourself 10 years ago. And it's one of the only Spider-Man books you gave an F to for the entire series.
Tommy, I can almost tell you're almost, you forget that
I forget
that for a member, a person who has been in the media virtually all of his adult life, he can't talk, he can't read, and he doesn't, he misses and he doesn't remember anything.
Tommy, there is so much hard drive space in there. You think I'm going to dedicate 5 F books in my memory that I hated 10 years ago? Tommy, God love you. I love that you remember me reviewing them, because obviously I do not.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the great things though about what we've been doing for almost 20 years now. People can come up and bring stuff up that we don't even remember anymore. We love that we love that you're enjoying the crawl space back issue bin, folks. We really do.
JR, this is like the second time something like this happened. I put this on my Facebook this week. I know you're not a Facebooker, and we had parent-teacher conferences at school.
I remember those.
This week, and this guy comes up to me. He's got his wife with him. He's got a kid next to him, and says, "I remember you. You were at my first wedding." And I'm looking at the guy. My brain is moving. I got the hamster moving in my brain. I'm like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? I'm like, oh yeah, who'd you get married to? He said some name I didn't recognize. He goes, yeah, you did a news story on me on Valentine's Day about people getting married. You're bad luck. I got a divorce. And I'm like, oh, okay. That sounds like I would, yeah. And I said, how long ago was that? He goes, 2000. So, 24 years ago. Okay. I'm glad you.
Well, it's easier to understand why you forgot and why he never will, because I'm sure, if you wind up marrying the wrong partner, you don't forget that.
He said he's been married 5 years. So,
yeah. Well, good thing you didn't show up at the second one then.
He's been married 15 to the second one, but I just
anyway, Felicia Hardy now enters the story, and it's good to see her. Particularly, like I said, when she's done right. And she says, Peter, boy, I'd love to help you. I'll try to get on a plane as quickly as I can, but I'm down here in Florida on my own missing persons case. She says, but I'll get up there as soon as I can. So then Peter says, well, Peter decides to try. Well, first of all, he thinks he thinks he knows who's behind it. And this is actually kind of funny because as the story plays out, because you think, well, Norman's in jail. And I honestly thought that during this story that they were going to kind of Hannibal Lecter him a little bit, because first of all, because Spider-Man comes to him demanding what he's done, to know what he's done with Aunt May. And then later he goes to see Norman in jail. And he says, well, Norman, if you didn't do it, who do you think did? So I thought, they're going to kind of, Norman's not going to be the driver of the plot, but he's going to kind of feed into it. But anyway, I was wrong as usual again.
This image, what image? This image was yours for the longest time on the message board, I think.
Yeah. Just
that's a good looking shot of Norman, isn't it?
Yeah. And before I forget, folks, and I'll reference it later. I did Jonathan with his Thwip Studios did this, and I did Norman, and it was a fun experience. I really enjoyed doing it.
That's still out on YouTube if you want to check it out.
It was a fun experience, particularly the very end. He had some great lines. But anyway, so Norman's just going, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he says, but then again, could I have told somebody your secret? Could I have then told them to kidnap your oldest relative? Maybe I did. And of course, reader, you're sitting here thinking, well, obviously Norman didn't. It's too obvious. So anyway, so Norman pretty well, after he messes with Peter and indicates that he's just going to continue to mess with him, Spider-Man gets the message and realizes this ain't going anywhere. And so he leaves. And Norman welcomes the security guard back from the bathroom. So anyway, so Spider-Man decides to seek out another avenue of help. He goes to Avengers Mansion. And of course, this is a variation of Cheech and Chong's, hey, it's Dave. Dave's not here. He's, Jarvis doesn't believe it's really Spider-Man. And Spider-Man's, begging to be let in. And but eventually, and then the security comes around and he eventually he breaks in. And actually, this is another reason why I like this story is because Spider-Man is truly amazing in the story. He's strong, he's fast, he's, and he just blows by security, just not like nothing. But he's unfortunately stopped by that huge asshole Quicksilver, and Quicksilver's an asshole. And actually Spider-Man, after the House of M, Spider-Man beats the crap out of him for very logical reasons. But anyway, so Quicksilver stops him, and here's the reference I was talking about, because I guess they crashed through the wall where Hawkeye's press clippings were, and Hawkeye doesn't appreciate it, and Quicksilver says, drop dead, redneck, which I'm thinking, is Hawkeye a redneck? Was it ever established that Hawkeye was from Missouri,
hey,
or southwestern Indiana? I don't know what Hawkeye's back, but it's just funny he calls him a redneck. But anyway, but then he says, how dare you speak to me like that in front of my sister? And it's like, Who that? So what? I talk, my brother and I talk trash about and to each other and around each other. It's like, that's what siblings do. Yeah. So it's like, this may be a little bit nod to the, kind of like, how dare you insult me in front of my wife, that kind of thing, how dare you insult me in front of my sister. So the creepy vibes come up. So anyway, but this is and we go to basically what Spider-Man wants is he wants to see Captain America because he thinks Captain America can put him in touch with Nick Fury, and Nick Fury can help him because Nick already knows who he is. He already knows that he's Peter Parker, has for a long time. And so he figures that Fury would, if anybody could help him, it would be Nick Fury. And then what's funny is, Tony Stark comes in and he says, secret identities are so quaint. Which, kind of is interesting considering that Tony talked him into revealing his secret identity 2 or 3 years later. But then he talks to Cap, and Cap says, actually, going public didn't affect me either. In fact, not having to maintain 2 separate lives has actually been very liberating. Well, after Peter goes public in Civil War, Captain America gets in his face and says, well, how does Mary Jane feel knowing that Sandman has her address? And I'm thinking, you dumbass, 2 years ago, you said it was liberating, but, and you can't blame the writer because Millar was the writer on both of them. So it's like, so Cap says it's liberating. And then he's getting in his face saying, well, how does Mary Jane feel about the Sandman having his, it's like, anyway. Yep. So Spider-Man gets fed up with these assholes and leaves. And they're being a bunch of assholes, but he's very stressed, and the Avengers, I liked him being
Earth's mightiest assholes.
There we go. Earth's mightiest assholes. Thank you. But it is true. They never quite understood him. I did like when he became an Avenger with that particular team that Bendis started, but I wouldn't want him to be a full-time Avenger, and I wouldn't want him to be an Avenger on this team, for example. But they just never really understood him from day one. Even when they invited him into the ranks, they just didn't get him. And so it was always,
hey, you can join us if you go fight the Hulk. Get out of here with us. I mean, come on.
And but the thing is, though, they essentially provoke him into a fight, and but so anyway, so here's another questionable decision. Spider-Man decides to go to the Owl for help.
Who?
Now, the Owl.
Who?
Leland Owlsley.
Who?
I'm getting slower in my old age.
I think I got you.
It took me a couple of whoos. Oh my God. Talk about falling for the stupidest joke in the book.
Let me just reel you in.
Folks, I just may give up for the night because I've been humiliated beyond belief. I can't believe I'm going to have to chalk that up to advancing age. I swear. Oh my God. Anyway, shut up. The Kingpin,
looks like you need to join the Earth's mightiest.
The Kingpin is out of power. I think Daredevil knocked I forget how he fell out of power this time. But the Owl is now trying to take over New York's crime scene and consolidate his power. Spider-Man goes to him for help. And not only does Spider-Man go to him for help, he gives him a picture of Aunt May, tells him her name. He doesn't say he's related. Doesn't say he's related to her or anything. But he tells her his name. I mean, he tells
he isn't a
the
detective,
Owl
is he?
her name. And it's like, and if you can't, if anybody can't like take the next 2 steps and figure out who he is, this is just incredibly stupid, and basically Spider-Man says, well, if you do this for me, then I'll owe you. And it's like, when does Spider-Man ever want to be in debt to anybody in the underworld? Nope. Never. Jeez. I mean, the guy, I mean, I know he's upset, but I know he's distressed, but he's been upset and distressed before. And he thought May has been dead before. I think this is bad writing. The Owl was cool back then. Yeah, I don't know much about the Owl, but I do remember his participation in that great Bill Mantlo story. with Doc Ock. Great
That was
story
good.
in Spectacular many years ago. But anyway, so the owl says, "Well, yeah, let me make a few phone calls and I'll help you. Nothing, don't be suspicious of me because I'm a known criminal. I'll do you right." So he says he makes a few phone calls. Spider-Man bullshits with the security guard a little bit. The owl comes back and says, "Electro and Vulture, they're the ones who have your missing person." So, and I guess he tells him where they are and he says, "Go get him, Spider-Man."
And he pulls a V miniseries and eats a mouse.
Yeah, him and Jane Badler.
Ooh, and Mark Singer. Ooh, let's do deep cuts. Michael Ironside. Hey, Grant. Come on, I know the cast of V.
I wonder how many out there got that reference. But Michael Ironside, Google, when he was younger, he would have been
badass.
If I were holding auditions for the role of Norman Osborn, Michael Ironside would be one of the first names I called. Nowadays, particularly after his second go round, nobody beats Willem Dafoe. But back in the day, I would have.
Ironside would have been a good guy.
I would have given Mike in the '90s when they were talking about trying to do a movie. I definitely would put Michael Ironside on the short list.
I bet you didn't know Harley Quinn was in this story.
Yeah, I know. There's
there she is.
There's little cameos sprinkled throughout the story. We're going to see the Fantastic Four here before too long.
Oh yeah.
So there's little cameos sprinkled about. But anyway, Electro and the Vulture have gone to this Russian nightclub / whorehouse. They have been staying at the Helmsley Hotel. Vulture mentioned specifically the Helmsley. Folks, I know a lot of you won't remember the name Helmsley, but Leona Helmsley was a very famous name in the late 80s and 90s. The Queen of Mean, they called her. She was a rich person.
Is it bad that I went with Sherman Helmsley when you said Helmsley? That's my
that's very bad. That's very bad. Anyway, she was famous for saying taxes are paid. She was eventually jailed for tax evasion. She is very, very wealthy. Her husband was in the hotel business and made millions, but they got her. She basically committed tax evasion. And so she actually wound up in jail for about 18 months, surprisingly. But, basically she had one quote. She basically said taxes are only paid by the little people, which kind of went down in history like Marie Antoinette's let them eat cake. But anyway, spider history is American history. That's what I tell you, folks.
Coming soon to the History Channel.
They're
spider history.
Intertwined. But anyway, but now Vulture, he just wanted to stay at the hotel until it was time to leave. Because these guys were going to get out of town because they've got $20 million. $20 million. Could this been the payoff for kidnapping Aunt May? Well, no, maybe. It's only issue 2. I don't think it's him. But anyway, Electro says, "Hey, let's have some fun. The last night we're here. We're not going to be here for years, because we're going to be on the lam." But anyway, so Max is a frequent guest at this Russian nightclub / whorehouse, and one of his frequent he's a frequent client of this particular.
I forgot.
Who is not particularly appealing at first blush, and and the Vultures.
Here she is. Here's who we're talking about.
Yeah,
I got my little older ready.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, scroll down a little bit. It's not so much that she's heavy. It's just like the ripped pantyhose. I mean, that's just like tramp all over it. But go back up and look at the Vulture's face. It's kind of like,
really? You're into that?
The Boris Yeltsin look. Boris Yeltsin, folks, was the president of Russia immediately after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
I thought this was Electro. This is more shocking. Get it? Shocker?
No. Anyway, but it just kind of funny. It's like, huh?
But there's a reason he's going out with his chick.
Yes, there is.
He's a shapeshifter.
She is a shapeshifter.
Ooh,
and she can be anybody. But here's the thing. There's this panel. Okay, there we go. No, we'll go up a little bit.
Okay.
Folks, how do you interpret, go up a little bit more.
Which one?
Or down. I'm sorry, down a little bit. I've got my
up
downs. There we go. Boys and girls, how do you interpret this? These little role plays were great, but my last couple of times at Rikers opened up a whole new side of myself I didn't know existed until
no.
And then she says, well, who is it? He says, you promised not to laugh. Well, between you and me, I've always had fancied a crack at next panel.
Okay.
That, I mean, how do you interpret this, folks? When I did my review of it, I said this was ridiculous. This was who wants to read this? That's crap. Who wants to read this? You know, I mean, it just,
wow.
I'm not a Puritan. I'm not a, but you know, come on, this is going a wee bit too far.
So is he
basically
he's saying he has a thing for Spider-Man? Is that what we're getting at?
That's why I'm asking. That's why I'm asking the people out there. He's basically saying he's
now into men because he went to prison.
He's basically saying now he learned to get it on with men in prison. Okay, folks. Yeah, we all know what happens in prison. But you know, I don't particularly care for.
Yeah, Gary, who would have known Electro was bisexual?
Yeah. Well, he didn't either, apparently, until he spent the last couple of years at Rikers.
Oh my Lord! Yeah, that's a bit much.
Yeah, it was a bit much.
But anyway, cliffhanger is Electro bisexual to be continued.
Yeah. So, but anyway, but then Spider-Man is waiting for him, and that is the end of part 2. Part 2 of Down Among the Dead Men. This is a 12-part story in 3 sections. The first section,
so much of this. So much of this. I've forgotten so much of this story.
Oh,
not so much that I forgot 5 full issues of it like I did that one book. And you, JR, you admit, like, there's some comics. We've been reading these things for 40 plus years. You've forgotten a lot of them too. Like, if they aren't memorable, by God, they're disposable entertainment almost.
Yeah. And unfortunately, particularly more recently than the past, they've been pretty disposable. But again, the miniseries, you could rattle off miniseries, and I wouldn't recognize any of them because I don't buy them anymore. They're garbage. You know, I mean, it's just, they're just almost uniformly garbage. I can count on one hand the good ones, you know, Death and Destiny, Hobgoblin Lives, I think Revenge of the Green Goblin, just very few are any good.
Zach is saying that little robot in issue 1 was supposed to be a Spider Slayer. It was recolored for the trade, the Romita era Slayer.
Well, if it comes from the Spidey Dude Radio Network, we know that the media never lies. So that's got to be the truth.
It's odd at times, but I actually get a kick out of Miller's writing here, is what Gary and the Frozen says. So
he's a good writer. I mean, I don't care for some things, and you know, like I kind of mentioned earlier, I don't know why editorial doesn't catch some of his mistakes. And he does take liberties. I don't like, you know, a lot of his plot holes, but all in all, he's a good writer. I think he's a good writer. I enjoyed this story. And like I said, the first Ultimates 12 issues, I think is great. It is great. So anyway, part 3, these are a bunch of good covers, folks. Mm-hmm. I mean, they just are. They're very busy.
Look,
they're detailed.
It's a Jeep.
Yeah. They're colorful.
Yeah.
You know,
beautiful.
They're a group of good covers. In fact,
a Dodson transportation van over here.
Yeah, I'm thinking what was the? I was thinking what was it Brubaker who did all those covers of Spectacular back in the 80s or whatever? He did a lot of really good covers in that time period. But anyway, so this is part 3, and Brad. This probably doesn't have the ads, does it? I was about to say,
I don't have the ads now.
Okay, you don't have the ads because, folks, I go to the source.
Okay, I'll full screen you. Let's see some ads. What we got? Oh, I ordered that.
Remember when this came out? We have been waiting for this for a long time. Not because it was any good. Although watching the first season, it was surprisingly true to the comic. I was pretty surprised. But then after Ralph Bakshi took over
season 3, I think
it got weird, and then there was one episode that some stations wouldn't show because it was like an LSD trip. Yeah, it was. I mean, I think you could look it up. It was like looked like it was drug induced, and they reused stuff all the time. They reused plots, reused footage, I mean, just it was terrible
from various previous cartoons that they animated.
Yeah, it was, you know, I think Mysterio was green at one time. I mean, he was like, basically, he was Mysterio. It was a guy. He didn't look like Mysterio, but anyway, he was Mysterio. But then they took the very same character, put a fin on him, on his head, made him green, and said he was from Atlantis.
Yeah.
So
all right, back to
that's how
issue
bad
3.
it
Let's
was.
start here. Hold on. Here we're going to start.
I'm
Oh
just
wait,
telling
sorry, I
people
was
about-
zoomed in too much.
I'm beginning to wonder if you spent some time in Rikers discovering a part of yourself that you never, you've got a preoccupation with.
I didn't draw it.
No, but you keep zeroing in on it. It's like, you don't zero in on Felicia's or Mary Jane's, you zero in on Norman's and Peter's. Gee whiz, people should people might talk. Oh, boys and girls.
All right, go ahead.
Shoo. Okay. Oh, I was about to say I'm already over an hour, but I know that Brad is not going to start the next
No,
one
I
until 9:30.
gave you an hour and a half because I know we like to chit chat on the first one a lot.
Yeah, we kind of had to set this up. Yep. But anyway, so a knockdown drag out begins between Spider-Man and Electro. And the Vulture wants no part of it and tries to get away. Well, Spider-Man snags his briefcase that he's trying to get away with, and all their $20 million falls out.
Uh-oh.
And now Electro is really mad, and he is just absolutely determined to fry Spider-Man. And for the most part, he does a pretty good job. Spider-Man gets his licks in, obviously. But someone with Electro's powers, which is why I was glad they did him in a movie. Unfortunately, they didn't really quite do it justice. I didn't have a problem with it being Jamie Foxx. Particularly since they decided to ditch all the nonsense and when they brought him back in No Way Home. But
look at that. Yeah, my goodness.
A character with Electro's power would be really dangerous and really scary and a real good and a real special effects treat. So, he's he's one of Spidey's B-list villains, in good villains for a reason. So anyway, so he brings
Ed Hannigan. That's what we're talking about.
Ed Hannigan. Thank you.
Right, yeah.
Thank you, Tommy Bagley. Are you sure you're not Hornacek? Because you keep bringing these things up, these facts up, and that's what Hornacek used to always do.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah, like Mr. Hannigan. Comics saying I'm the Sir Mix-a-Lot of the crossface.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so Electro just is
big fight.
He's frying Spider-Man, and he pretty well has him on the ropes. He brings down a whole bunch of he blows up a big gas tank. Oh, and then Spider-Man fights him and puts him in with in vicinity of a propane tank, and I'm sure Hank Hill cried to see a good propane tank go to such waste. Mm-hmm. But then Spider-Man finds out, he's asking Electro, where's the old woman? And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? What old woman? And it turns out, and of course, Spider-Man lets himself get distracted and zapped. But apparently, did he tell the Kingpin money laundering story in this? Yes, he did. Okay.
Kingpin's right at the top of it.
Yeah. For some reason, I don't know, Mark. I don't know. I guess it's okay, but it's like I sometimes wonder if Mark Millar buys into conspiracy theories. Although there is a lot of probably real truth to Hollywood being used for money laundering. Why else do some of these movies cost as much as they do? But anyway, so the Kingpin was laundering some of his money in a movie project that failed, and like Joe Pesci in Casino, he didn't want to hear about any of the risk. He just wanted his money back, and so the Kingpin sent. Well, anyway, but the Kingpin never got a chance to collect because he was dethroned by Daredevil. So the Owl when the Owl installed himself in, or as we'll find out later that somebody installed the Owl in Kingpin's place. And, the Owl decided to collect on the Kingpin's old debts, including this one. And Electro and Vulture were the ones that he hired to pick up his $20 million, but they just thought they'd take it for themselves. And nobody will be the wiser. Well, Spider-Man lets himself get distracted by finding out that, he's been had. He let the Owl have him. You've been, Electro says, you've been played like a fool, And so he basically fries Spider-Man, and Spidey falls and crashes and has to be rushed to a hospital.
Yep.
So then Mary Jane is at a cheap hotel somewhere, and she is deciding to come back. But she happens to turn on the TV, and she finds out that Spider-Man's in bad shape.
Yeah.
And the and the last page is they start to operate on Spider-Man, and I guess they do operate on him. And once they finish up, they send him into recovery, but his recovery time is going to be pretty short because last panel of page 3, guess who shows up? The Vault, and finally wants a piece of him. The Vault
in a new looking costume too. It looks
new looking costume. That was part of, and if you noticed, Electro, even though Electro had his old colors, his mask, like for example, I guess when he used his electricity, the bolts would stay, adhered to his head, but when he used his electricity, then they'd spring out. And one of the things that Millar was doing, which is why, we've talked about Norman's costume and, why there's new looks for the Vulture and Electro, is that one of the things Millar and the Dodsons were doing was they were trying to revamp Spidey's villains. They were trying to give them, kind of updated, splashy, modern looks. So, but anyway, so, Spider-Man's in bad shape, and it looks like he's done for because the Vulture is ready for
ready to go. Yep.
Part
that
4.
ends issue 3. On to the 4th issue.
Yeah. Begins with Spider-Man Peter hallucinating that Aunt May actually has been rescued by Captain America and the Avengers, and everything is all right. Except,
hold on, you're going a little fast. Hold on, let me get the.
I'm trying to get done before 9:30.
I got you.
Yeah, I mean, because it's almost like I hear, even though he's not here, I hear George's voice, mocking me for not adhering to his schedule.
There is the issue number 4.
Issue number 4.
Like Felicia comes in.
Yep. And Felicia plays a very big part.
There's Aunt May at the foot of the bed.
Very big part in the story. Well, and of course, it's all a drug-induced hallucination because the Vulture is there and he has just spun this nurse's neck around like Linda Blair in The Exorcist. So
he can get a good punch in even injured.
Well, yeah, but so Peter, he's sort of aware. He knows when he's about to get killed. So he decides to get in his licks on the Vulture. The cops come in and Vulture drops another pop culture reference, which I'm wondering how many of you in the audience will remember when he says, "Go ahead and make my day, Dirty Harry." It was go back a little bit.
Which one?
Or go back, yeah.
Go ahead, make my day.
Go ahead and make my day, Dirty Harry.
Which Dirty Harry was that from?
Sudden Impact.
Okay, so it wasn't. A lot of people say it's the first one, but it's not.
No, the first one.
You feel lucky, punk.
Yeah, the first one was "Do you feel lucky, punk?" Do you? And
I watched all those. And a little tying into Marvel, you know what the last and 5th Dirty Harry is called? Chat or Jared and I know.
Well, it's called.
Come on!
But it's the Deadpool. It's
the Deadpool. The Deadpool.
It's the Deadpool. Yeah. Because that's exactly what the plot is, which is funny because Liam Neeson, before he became Liam Neeson, is suspected of being the bad guy because he and a bunch of people have a Deadpool, which is like betting on which celebrity with a high risk lifestyle.
Was it Jim Carrey in that one too?
Jim Carrey was in the very beginning.
Yeah.
He was lip syncing to Guns N' Roses.
That's right.
He didn't have a speaking line, and he got killed in the first 5 minutes.
Yep, I remember
that is that is when you're starting out, boys and girls.
Yep.
That usually is what happened. You make a cameo and you get killed off pretty
Dirty
quickly.
Harry in the Deadpool. No Wade Wilson to be found. Though.
Unfortunately, it was the weakest of all the 5
I would agree.
Harry movies.
Sudden
Impact was good. The first was the best one. But anyway, so that's a reference to. Vulture takes Spider-Man and pretty well he's either going to rip him up to pieces or he's just going to drop him. But basically he's going to tell Spider-Man that what you did, you blank. I was going to take my portion of the money and use it for my grandson's leukemia treatments. So he tells the story basically, my daughter-in-law showed up. She had a son. Of course, we never knew Vulture had a son before this, And and I don't know. He's got a. Does he have a daughter now too? Who?
No, he's got a granddaughter who is
okay,
in Miles Morales' book.
Okay, he's got a granddaughter. But anyway, we're introduced to the fact that he's got a grandson that he never knew about, and
Got a granddaughter.
and
That's his daughter.
No, that's his daughter. Well, he calls her his daughter-in-law.
Oh,
but
okay.
and the
Who's
reference
his son.
and the reference later is to that it's that I think she mentioned that she was with the Vulture's son. So anyway, so they have this grandbaby, and the Vulture's pretty smitten with him, but then finds out that the little boy's got cancer, and of course, she's a waitress or whatever. She's working class, and the health system the way it is, you're if you don't have good insurance, you're screwed. And sometimes even if you do, you're screwed. But anyway, so he's laying a guilt trip on Spider-Man, which pretty well works. But then he just says, well, before I kill you, I'm going to find out who you are. He rips his bandages off. I don't have a clue who you are, which he has met Peter Parker before. Yes. He has during Roger Stern's Spectacular Run.
Right. Remember he picked up Lubinsky?
Yep, because he became buddies with Nathan Lubinsky.
Yeah.
Aunt May's cripple partner. But anyway, this Peter is pretty banged up and bandaged. So, but the Vulture was expecting to see somebody famous. He just expected to see somebody important, but it's a nobody. So he drops him, and he's fallen to his death. He doesn't have his web shooters.
Wait a minute. Wait. Oh, hold on. The wind's not working here, guys. Shouldn't that be above his head? If you are falling down, shouldn't
Well, no, not if your bandages are coming off and you're going down, and the bandage is being lighter than you is, going.
No,
up.
I'm talking about the gown.
Oh, well, this is still PG.
I know.
Oh my God, you are pathetic. Even when you don't see it, you want to see it.
No, I'm just saying. No, anyway, he should be. Yeah,
folks, as George Berryman would say, I'm sorry. I apologize for this. Well, anyway, Peter is falling to his death, but he is saved at the last minute by the Black Cat.
Hubba.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
And the force of catching him almost makes her pop out of her shirt.
I know, right?
That's again,
shouldn't gravity? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was about to say between the additional pressure that Peter is putting on her lower half is causing the pressure to increase on her upper half and pushing it out.
Oh, good Lord.
So
anyway,
Felicia saves him. Felicia saves him. And anyway, the Vulture is not very happy about this. And he thinks he's going to make quick work of Felicia. However, Felicia,
look at this guy. He's scared.
Yeah, I was about to say that looks like it almost looks like either Homer Simpson or an adult pig pen.
No, that is Homer. Look, there's Marge and there's Bart. Oh, that's so funny.
Oh my God, you're right. You're right. That is the Simpsons.
That's the Simpsons.
I told you, folks. There's cameos in this. Oh wow, that's a good catch.
That's funny.
Yeah, but unfortunately, but the Black Cat plays dirty.
Yeah,
and she helps herself to a hunk of the Vulture's face, and
ooh, look at that.
Yeah, she's. And she's enraged. I mean, she's still, and as she still loves Spider-Man, Peter. She still loves him. And, that this has been done to him just infuriates her. And she's not one to be messed with. And so she rips his face, Vulture's face, and she starts ripping his backpack, which carries his, flying mechanism, and sends him crashing into the wall.
Into a Mary Jane ad.
Yeah, which, as you notice, it says Emma, which I think this is an homage to the billboard that appeared at the beginning of Raimi's Spider-Man 2. Remember?
Okay.
And it was Kirsten Dunst.
That's good.
And
Good.
the name of the perfume she was advertising was Emma Rose, which I believe was Sam Raimi's daughter.
Holy cow, we got Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane and Superman right here now.
Yeah.
Don't forget to capitalize Perry. Perry.
And this is Superman has made a number of cameos in Spider-Man comics. Always, never specific, named, but he's kind of showed up. There was one Marvel team up. I think Robbie was talking to him and said, or somebody was talking to him. So how is it being the reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper? But
Gary and the Frozen is seeing stuff he's never seen before. Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, the Black Cat threatens the Vulture and basically says, I see you near Spider-Man again, I'm going to kill you. Eventually we find out that she drops the Vulture and Electro off at the Tinker. But anyway, she winds up, well, I was about to say, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So basically what happens off panel is she's working for the Owl, actually, and the Owl has sent her to look for Electro and the Vulture because they've taken his money. So she drops him off, and the Owl is working with another old villain friend of ours, a minor one, Mr. Dr. Winkler of the Winkler device.
This guy right here?
That's him.
The Winkler device guy. That's Winkler.
Yep. And he's going to do some not very nice stuff. Yeah. So Mary Jane is on her way home. Felicia has taken Peter home, but however, the Daily Bugle has a source in the hospital who takes pictures who gets pictures of people who come in, and sells them to the Bugle like it was a gossip rag. And he has the pictures of Spider-Man without his mask. And Jonas says, that's a very familiar face. Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, really. And he had a pretty good cliffhanger there. And not the first time it was suggested that Jonah has found out. But as we find out, we'll
find that out.
Yeah, it's almost a slot thing where you don't live up to the mystery. But anyway, That is Down Among the Dead Men, the first volume of a 3-volume Marvel Knights Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in another month.
We will be back with Spider history coming up next month.
Another month.
Who? Hold on. We finally add another. Go ahead now. Say it.
Yeah.
In another
month.